when a liberal journalist tried to publicly humiliate Melania Trump at a high-profile charity gala. He thought he had every angle covered. Cameras hidden, viral hashtag ready, and a script full of baited questions. But what he didn't count on was Melania's son. At 6 feet 7 inches, Harvard-trained, and armed with digital receipts, Barron Trump didn't just defend his mother. He flipped the entire narrative live in front of New York's elite. And when he was done, the journalist wasn't just embarrassed, he was finished. Before we begin, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. If you enjoy smart storytelling and true digital justice, hit like and subscribe right now. Your support helps us bring stories like this to life. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers, a sea of gowns and tuxedos, champagne flutes clinking beneath the soft hum of elite New York society. This was the city's premier philanthropy gala, an annual blend of power, wealth, and cameras. And this year, one particular guest list entry had the media whispering, Melania Trump arriving with her son, Barron. But amid the glitz, someone else had a plan. Michael Reynolds, a rising star at the Daily Progressive, had spent weeks preparing what he believed would be a career-defining moment. He wasn't here to report. He was here to ambush. Reynolds had built his reputation on viral hit pieces targeting conservative women. His latest idea? Catch Melania off guard on camera. Paint her as out of touch, privileged, and hypocritical. 3 hidden cameras were placed, his social media team was live, and the hashtag Melania Takedown was already queued. What he didn't know was that Barron Trump had quietly been watching. Not just tonight, but for weeks. Barron, now 18 and deep into his Harvard law studies, had noticed Reynolds following several members of their team on Twitter and Instagram. Something felt off, so Barron started tracking him. As Melania stepped onto the red carpet in a silver gown, smiling for the cameras, Barron was beside her, silent, composed, scanning the room. In his pocket, a folder of screenshots, timestamps, and tweets. A map of Reynolds' hypocrisy. Reynolds approached. Lights hit their faces. He smiled with feigned warmth and lifted his phone, already live to over 500,000 followers. Mrs. Trump, he began, as someone who's benefited so much from America's opportunities, how do you respond to accusations that you've pulled the ladder up behind you? A hush swept the room. Cameras swiveled. This was it, Reynolds' big moment. But then the unexpected. Barron stepped forward, towering, calm, and holding his phone casually in one hand. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Interesting approach to journalism, he said, his tone cool and deliberate. Mind if I read something from your Twitter last week? He tapped the screen and turned it toward the nearest cameras. There it was, Reynolds' post mocking conservative women as traitors to their gender. Tell me, Barron continued, do you always disguise your misogyny as progressive values? Or is that just for gala night? There was a pause. Then came the laughter, scattered at first, then growing. Even a few camera flashes seemed to flicker in support. Reynolds blinked, startled, but tried to push through. Your son's interruption only proves my point about privilege. But Barron cut him off with surgical precision. Like your privilege of selectively editing interviews to ruin reputations? Or mocking immigrant accents while pretending to celebrate diversity? More heads turned. Phones came out. The energy shifted. Barron took a step forward. You say you stand for women, yet your own tweets reveal the opposite. You say you stand for immigrants, yet you joke about accents behind closed doors. And don't worry, I have those screenshots too. Reynolds was sweating now, his hands trembling slightly as he fumbled with his notes. He hadn't prepared for this, certainly not for an opponent who came armed with evidence. This is about your mother's role in, he tried again. My mother, Barron interrupted smoothly. You mean the multilingual immigrant who built a business from nothing, then raised millions for children's charities while enduring attacks for people like you? He paused for emphasis. Did your research team miss all that while preparing your ambush? Melania stood silent beside him, calm and graceful, her eyes scanning the room as it filled with murmurs and recording phones. And Reynolds? He was beginning to unravel. His voice cracked as he tried to keep control. The public has a right to know. And the public, Barron said firmly, has a right to actual journalism, not performance art wrapped in hashtags. Another wave of approval swept the room. Now fully cornered, Reynolds looked for a way out. But Barron wasn't finished. Not even close. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this moment as much as the crowd did, don't forget, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button and let's keep going. Reynolds was beginning to shrink under the pressure. The confident journalist who entered the gala hoping for viral fame was now trapped under the weight of his own words. And Barron wasn't letting up. Calmly, Barron swiped through his phone, each motion deliberate, each pause perfectly timed. Let's talk about your article on toxic masculinity in politics, he said, turning his screen again to the room. You published it the same week you were caught bullying 2 female interns. Your own newsroom filed complaints. Gasps rippled through the audience. A moment later, Barron displayed a redacted internal HR complaint on his phone. The lighting from the chandeliers reflected off the screen as onlookers leaned in, straining to read it. Some of the older donors began murmuring to each other. Others raised their phones to capture the moment. Reynolds stammered. That's taken out of context. Is it? Barron replied, voice still smooth. Or is it just inconvenient context? The young man stepped closer, now inches from Reynolds. The difference in height, confidence, and control was impossible to ignore. This is about your family's impact on. Reynolds tried once more. But Barron didn't even need to raise his voice. You mean our impact, like my mother's literacy initiative that your network refused to cover because it didn't fit your agenda? He turned to the crowd, speaking not just to the journalists now, but to everyone watching. Or maybe you'd rather talk about your own network's fundraising gala last month, he said, tapping again, where you auctioned off private jet trips, right after publishing an op-ed about reducing carbon footprints. This time the laughter wasn't scattered. It was full, sharp biting. Reynolds was visibly sweating now, dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief he tried to conceal. The red light from his phone camera, still live, glared like a warning beacon. His Melania Takedown was becoming a full-blown media meltdown. You're trying to distract from the real issues, he barked, a sudden edge to his voice. Barron didn't flinch. Real issues, he repeated. Like your publication's offshore shell accounts? Or maybe your editors leaked messages about manufacturing outrage for engagement? He held up a screenshot. A private message from one of the Daily Progressive's senior editors, time-stamped and verified, read, need something inflammatory by 5 p.m., Trump-related if possible. Don't worry about balance. Just make a trend. The room went silent. The words hit like a hammer. Reynolds's face turned pale. His hands trembled now, no longer from nerves but from panic. This is harassment, he muttered, his voice breaking. Barron paused, then let out a short, knowing laugh. Harassment? Like sending paparazzi after my 12-year-old cousin? Or doxing my sister's address last summer? The silence deepened. Eyes turned toward Reynolds in disgust. The glamorous night had turned into an unexpected trial, and Barron was the unshakable prosecutor. I'm just trying to hold powerful people accountable, Reynolds said, his voice rising, almost desperate. Barron leaned in slightly, not threatening but commanding. Accountability? Let's talk about your accountability. He opened another folder on his phone. Here's a deleted tweet about immigrant women you thought no one archived. And here's a post from your burner account. Yes, we matched the IP, where you made fun of people for having accents. Another pause. Another collective gasp. Reynolds stepped back involuntarily, bumping into a waiter and nearly dropping his phone. The live feed was still going. Comments were flying. Barron's cooking him. This is brutal. Journalism just died in 4K. Meanwhile, Melania remained silent beside her son, but her eyes said everything. Calm, proud, resolved. Barron glanced toward her, then turned back to Reynolds. You wanted to make my mother a spectacle, he said. Instead, you've exposed yourself. Before we continue, if you're impressed by how prepared Barron was, or if you believe journalism should be based on truth, help us hit 1,000 subscribers. Like, subscribe, and share this moment. Let's keep accountability alive. By now, Reynolds wasn't just flustered. He was unraveling. The crowd, once buzzing with curiosity, was locked in stunned silence. Every phone in the room was recording. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore. It was an event. Barron stood still, holding his ground. His voice was measured, never rising, never breaking stride. "Let's talk about your morning email," he said casually, lifting his phone again. "The one where you told your team, need rage bait content by 5 p.m. Target Trump family for maximum engagement." He held the screen so the nearest camera could zoom in. You could hear a pin drop. Reynolds opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His face had gone from red to white in seconds. The email, leaked from a disgruntled staffer, was real. The source had already been verified by a third-party watchdog. The crowd began whispering. Even the other journalists at the event, many of whom had previously sided with Reynolds on political issues, looked down at their phones, shifting uncomfortably. "Is this what journalism school taught you?" Barron continued, his voice slicing through the silence. Or did you learn it during your failed writer's workshop on viral marketing?" Someone in the crowd chuckled, then another. The laughter was spreading again, not mocking Barron, but supporting him. The balance of power had completely shifted. Reynolds tried one last time. "The public deserves to know. The public deserves facts," Barron snapped, eyes sharp. "Not manufactured outrage. Not viral lies. Not anonymous sources who turn out to be..." Well, he paused. "Your burner Twitter accounts." He raised his phone again, this time with a spreadsheet. "We traced the IPs. 3 fake profiles you used to quote in your own articles. I have the records." Gasps. Reynolds took a shaky breath and looked around the room as if someone, anyone, might come to his rescue. No one did. Melania took a small step forward now, resting a gentle hand on her son's arm. Her voice was calm, elegant, unmistakable. "Perhaps, Mr. Reynolds," she said with her soft European accent, "you should focus on real journalism instead of inventing fake controversies." It was perfectly timed. Her words landed with grace and finality. The room erupted, quiet at first, then louder. Not just with laughter this time, but with applause. It echoed under the vaulted ceiling of the gala hall like a verdict. And Barron wasn't done. He took a final step forward, eyes locked on the now dismantled journalist. "Since you care so much about accountability," he said, "let's talk about your network's financial ties to foreign interests." He tapped his phone again. "These documents," he said, holding up a series of files, "show that your parent company received millions to push specific narratives. One of them? The very hit piece you tried to create tonight." Reynolds was frozen. No response. His mouth opened, then closed. His hands trembled at his sides. He looked smaller somehow, exposed, defeated. He turned to leave. But Barron, still composed, still cool, offered one last line, low, sharp, unforgettable. "Don't forget your microphone." The room burst into cheers. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. "And Mr. Reynolds," Barron called out, just as the journalist stumbled past the velvet ropes, "next time you plan an ambush, make sure you're not the one walking into the trap." Reynolds didn't reply. He didn't even turn around. He was gone. And by the time the doors swung shut behind him, the story had already left the room and entered the digital bloodstream of the internet. Within an hour, the footage was everywhere. The hashtags weren't the ones Reynolds had planned. Instead, phrases like hashtag Barron Trump, hashtag journalism fail, and hashtag digital takedown top trending lists worldwide. Even major networks that typically ignored or criticized the Trump family couldn't resist covering it. One evening anchor from a rival outlet called it the most spectacular takedown in modern media history. Back at the Trump residence, hours later, Melania and Barron sat in quiet comfort, the fire crackling softly. "You knew he was coming for us, didn't you?" she asked gently. Barron gave a slight smile, pulling a folder from his bag. 2 weeks ago, he said, he started following 3 of our interns. So I followed him back. All of his accounts. Every move. Melania nodded. Donald's voice came through on speaker from his private line. "That's my boy," he said proudly. "You didn't just beat them at their game. You rewrote the rules." Barron shrugged. "Just applying what Harvard taught me about discovery and due diligence." Before we continue, if you believe in the power of preparation, truth, and standing up for your family. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Tap that subscribe button, drop a like, and join the movement for smarter stories and sharper accountability. The confrontation at the gala didn't just end a journalist night. It sent shockwaves across the entire media industry. The video clip of Barron dismantling Michael Reynolds spread like wildfire. Within 12 hours, it had been viewed over 20 million times across platforms. Headlines exploded, not just from conservative sites, but from mainstream outlets that couldn't ignore the sheer scale of the spectacle. Barron Trump delivers masterclass in media accountability. The gala moment that changed everything. Journalist ambush backfires spectacularly. Even late-night hosts, many of whom had mocked the Trump family for years, struggled to spin it. One joked, if this were a debate club, Reynolds just got legally adopted by Barron Trump. But behind the memes and viral hashtags, something deeper was happening. At the Daily Progressive, the fallout was immediate. Their internal servers crashed from traffic surges. Advertisers began pulling out within 48 hours. Readers, both left and right, demanded answers. And inside the newsroom, panic set in. An emergency editorial board meeting was called. Reynolds was placed on indefinite leave pending a formal investigation. The screenshots, tweets, burner accounts, and leaked emails Barron had revealed, all verified. And it got worse. Whistleblowers from inside the network came forward confirming that yes, Reynolds had been known for stretching facts. That he had, more than once, created anonymous sources from scratch. That his team had a folder literally labeled Takedown drafts filled with pre-written smear pieces, waiting for target. The public outrage turned inward. Comment sections were flooded with messages like, "This isn't journalism. This is narrative warfare." Barron just did more for media reform in 15 minutes than Congress has in a decade. University journalism programs began rewriting lesson plans overnight. Professors cited the event as a turning point, an example of how power, once held by journalists, could now be challenged by anyone with facts, receipts, and the courage to speak up. One Ivy League professor called it the ultimate case study in digital accountability. And the ripple effects didn't stop there. Other reporters, many of whom had previously felt immune to consequences, started triple-checking their social media histories. Background checks weren't just for sources anymore. They were for the journalists themselves. A new term was quietly coined inside newsrooms. Don't get Barron. It meant check your facts, check your bias, and check your past before going after someone on camera. Even Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known for a fiery social media presence, was overheard telling a staffer, "Run that through twice. I don't want to get Barron." The gala, originally meant to raise money for children's charities, ended up breaking donation records. Not because of the media coverage it planned for, but because of the confrontation no one expected. Donors reported they felt energized by what they witnessed, truth prevailing in real time. Meanwhile, Barron received invitations from top-tier universities to speak on media literacy, digital responsibility, and ethical preparation. Law professors asked if they could use his exchange with Reynolds in class. He politely declined most of the offers, not out of arrogance, but because, as he told one interviewer, sometimes the best rebuttal is silence after the truth has already done its work. That line itself became a quote. It trended, printed on T-shirts, even showed up in commencement speeches. And for Reynolds? His last tweet, posted days after the confrontation, simply read, "I'm stepping away from journalism to reflect. I was chasing clicks. I became the story. Before we move on, if you believe accountability matters, no matter who you are, help us keep stories like this alive. Click subscribe and help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support tells the algorithm these stories matter." Back at the Trump residence, the atmosphere was calm but electric. The fire crackled softly in the sitting room as the family watched the replay of the gala confrontation one more time. This time not through headlines or social media clips, but on a widescreen TV, surrounded by silence and pride. Melania sat with a soft smile, her eyes never leaving the screen as Barron's voice echoed once more, confident and unshaken. When the clip ended, She turned toward her son. "You didn't just protect me," she said softly. "You protected the truth." Barron, modest as ever, simply nodded. "It was never about the moment," he replied. "It was about the pattern. People like Reynolds think no one's paying attention. But I was." Donald Trump entered from the next room, holding his phone in one hand, already having watched the video 5 times, as he joked. But when he spoke, it wasn't in jest. That, he said, looking directly at his son, was presidential. Barron let out a small laugh. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." But the truth was, something had shifted. To the public, Barron had long been a mysterious figure, tall, quiet, out of the spotlight. But now, he had emerged not just as the son of a former president, but as a symbol of composure, preparation, and sharp intellect. No flash, no shouting, just evidence, delivery, and results. Across social media, people began referring to him not as Trump's son, but simply Barron. Influencers across the political spectrum praised his tone and tactics. One legal analyst tweeted, "What Barron Trump demonstrated wasn't just media literacy. It was courtroom-ready strategy. Harvard is lucky to have him." And they weren't wrong. Back at school, Barron returned to Harvard with a different kind of reputation. Professors in both law and journalism classes asked to include his takedown in future syllabi. His classmates, many of them future litigators, journalists, and policymakers, joked that the legal research section of the library should be renamed the Barron Trump Wing. Despite all the attention, Barron stayed quiet. No interviews, no press statements, no tweets. As one professor remarked, he let the facts speak for him, and then let the silence do the rest. But it wasn't just about Barron. Melania, often portrayed by the media through a filtered lens, suddenly found herself viewed differently. People started revisiting her past initiatives, the anti-cyberbullying campaign, the children's hospital visits, the literacy programs she funded quietly. Journalists who had previously ignored those efforts began writing new, more balanced pieces. Some even issued corrections or updates to previous stories. Even the harshest outlets treaded more carefully, not because they were afraid, but because they now knew someone was watching, someone prepared, someone trained, someone named Barron. Meanwhile, the Daily Progressive underwent a massive restructuring. They issued a public statement committing to transparency and ethics. They scrubbed the term takedown from all internal communication. They launched a reader advisory board. But it was clear to everyone. They were trying to repair a ship that had already been hit. Behind closed doors, Reynolds quietly resigned. Ironically, he found unexpected success writing a book about the event. Titled Ambushed, How I Got Barroned. The memoir became a cautionary tale about hubris, bias, and the dangers of chasing viral moments at the cost of truth. In one interview promoting the book, he admitted, "I went looking for a target and found a mirror. I thought I was crafting a story. Turns out I was the ending." Before we wrap up, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We're building something real here. Smart storytelling, truth-telling, and respect for the facts. Help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. In the weeks following the gala, the phrase, "You just got Barron," became part of the cultural lexicon. Not as a joke, but as a warning. It meant, don't come unprepared, don't twist facts, and most of all, don't underestimate someone because of who you think they are. What began as a journalist's attempt to generate headlines had transformed into something bigger, a societal recalibration. The media was being watched more closely. Accountability, once a vague concept thrown around in editorials, had taken human form in the shape of an 18-year-old law student in a tuxedo. Journalism schools added entire sections on digital responsibility. New seminars titled The Barron Standard popped up at conferences. Young journalists were taught to treat every question they asked as if it might one day be reversed on them, live, on camera, with receipts. In classrooms, students debated what made Barron's response so effective. Some said it was his calm tone. Others pointed to the preparation, the timing, the way he let Reynolds unravel himself with each denial. But what most agreed on was this. It wasn't about a gotcha moment. It was about truth, backed by evidence, and delivered with clarity. And that's what set it apart. This wasn't just revenge. It wasn't a viral prank or a political stunt. It was a calculated defense of dignity, his mother's, his family's, and the broader principle that truth should still matter, even in the age of digital noise. Melania, once caricatured by the press, saw a wave of positive attention not because she fought back, but because she didn't have to. Her silence, her grace, and the quiet trust she placed in her son said more than any speech could have. Donald, a man known for bold declarations and loud headlines, watched this new generation of his family rise with a different kind of strength, one rooted in precision, not volume. And Barron? He returned to his studies. He declined interviews. He continued to live mostly in the background. But those who knew him, his classmates, professors, friends, said something had shifted. He walked taller, not with arrogance, but with awareness. He had seen how easily reputations could be twisted, how quickly narratives could be built, and how vital it was to come armed with facts, not feelings. When asked later by a Harvard Law Review editor if he'd consider entering politics, Barron simply replied, "Truth has no term limit." That one sentence was printed, quoted, and framed on the office wall of a Washington, D.C. think tank. Because in the end, this wasn't just a story about a mother and son or a journalist and his failure. It was a story about preparation over performance, facts over fiction, and principle over popularity. So what can we take from all this? First, never underestimate quiet strength. It often holds the sharpest tools. Second, receipts matter. In a world driven by opinions, evidence is your greatest ally. And third, if you're going to stand for something, stand with grace, but don't be afraid to stand firm. Because as Barron showed the world that night, when truth walks into the room, lies don't just scatter, they collapse. If you made it to the end, thank you. Stories like this take time, effort, and a real belief in honest storytelling. If you believe we need more of that in the world, help us grow this community. Click like, subscribe, and help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. You could be part of the change. And don't stop here. Click the card on your screen to watch our next story. It's another moment of unexpected courage and quiet revolution that you don't want to miss. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, sometimes the best defense is a well-prepared offense.